Hey guys, Chelsea from Attention to Details, and today in the shop we are working on this Toyota Tundra. We are getting it ready for an exterior wash. Decontamination, we're going to be polishing it, do a quick paint enhancement, and then we're going to be applying the new Meguiar's hybrid paint coating. But before we apply any sort of coating to this, we've got a major issue on this paint that we need to address. And I don't know if you can see this right here, but this is actually a lot of rail dust. You see the orange speckles, and we've got a lot of tar and just bonded contaminants all over the surface of this paint. It's going to take a heavy chemical decon as well as clay bar, clay towel, clay pad treatment. We're going to see what route is the best to go. We're going to be trying a couple of different products and processes to see if we can get quick results. Now, whatever I do is going to mar the paint, so I for sure am going to be doing a paint enhancement or polish the paint afterwards, but that's also essential to just continuously clean the paint, make sure it is squeaky clean. We have a virgin panel before we apply our coating. But this is actually some of the worst rail dust that I have ever seen on a vehicle, so it's going to be super satisfying for you guys, but it's going to be a lot of work for me. Hopefully the clay towel is going to be an effective treatment. But you can see even here, a lot of the majority of it is just on the back panel. It's pretty much everywhere on this vehicle. There's not a single surface that it hasn't affected it. Now, what are all of these orange speckles on the paint? Well, it is rail dust or iron fallout. And what happens is if you live in an area that has heavy construction, or it could be brake dust shaving, and if you don't remove it, eventually it will turn into rust. If we were to kind of let this go, you're going to actually start to see these lower panels here start to rust out. But we're going to do a scientific experiment, just kind of my own geeking out. But essentially, rust is an alkaline, and to neutralize the rust, you would want to use acid. A lot of times, some people use hydrochloric acid, etc., to go after heavy rust. So I've seen within different detailing groups where people will actually use wheel acid to go after heavy rail dust on vehicles. Now, you might be thinking acid on paint, that's dangerous. Well, essentially your wheels all have clear coat on them, just like your vehicle. You wouldn't want to use this on single stage paint or anywhere that has like raw aluminum, but on clear coated surfaces, it should be safe. So what we're going to do, this hasn't been washed yet. We're actually going to go ahead, we're going to do an acid kind of bath on this section here. We're going to do a chemical decontaminant. I have Purple X from Superior Products. It's a new chemical decon concentrate that they have. We're going to try that right here. And then just this section here alone, we're going to try it with just a clay towel treatment to see which one is going to give us the best results the fastest. All right, so we're just going to kind of wet everything down. Going to knock off the big stuff. Then we have our Hot Shot Wheel Acid. This is at a 2-to-1 dilution ratio. I'm just going to come in, spray, and let that dwell. We've got our Superior Products Purple X. And then I have my McKee's 37. This is their medium or more aggressive clay wash mitt. So we're going to go ahead and just come in here. Try to keep this somewhat uniform. And don't worry, I'm polishing. Don't worry. I know those of you are freaking out. And try to, I'm a righty, so we're going to switch sides. Try to just agitate this. Just with my clay towel alone. And you can see we're getting a really good reaction here. Do a clay towel treatment. This is where the acid was. And we're going to come in here and actually do a clay towel treatment using our Purple X as our lubricant. I feel like I have given all three of those an equal amount of clay barring. We're going to come in close. So this first section here is where our acid. We still have some deeper contaminants. This is where our purple X, and this is our clay towel alone. I can tell you the clay towel alone, we have a lot more orange left behind. Here, probably not as much. And then here, I feel like this is the least amount of orange out of the three. So I do wonder if we were to first do a acid bath, essentially, kind of go after things, do a clay bar treatment, and then follow up with our chemical decon for any sort of remaining bonded contaminants that might be on the paint. But I feel like here's our untouched, to our acid, to our chemical decon, to just the clay towel alone. So having a chemical is definitely advantageous, but I honestly think the acid in this moment did better than just straight up chemical decon. But obviously it's acid, so we're being far more aggressive to the paint. If the paint is oxidized or damaged, you know, what would you do with an acid bath versus something that is more dedicated for paint? It's not going to be as aggressive. So interesting. We're going to keep moving, but that kind of gives me a game plan of how to address the vehicle moving. We're going to do a heavy wash first, because obviously I'm not going to just go after everything without doing a good contact wash first. But this vehicle is so dirty that any sort of wash is going to scratch it, because there's no way I'm going to get 100%. Because we are polishing it, I'm not going to freak out in the moment. And that will also, if we have acid and it dries out the paint, the polishing oils in the polish are going to help replenish and give us nice gloss and shine.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
We are all done with our wash. We cleaned the tonneau bed cover, tires and wheels, got that out of the way. And now we're going to go ahead and try to start doing our chemical decon. You can see, even after we did a contact wash, there's still a tinge to the paint. You can actually see, if you come in here kind of to the side, you can see where we did our 3 test strips. So it's not road film that's left behind. These are our bonded contaminants that we need to go ahead and remove. So I'm going to actually set you guys up on the tripod, and we are going to put some gloves on. It is a cold day and my hands are already kind of getting a little bit beat up from just nicking it on things. I think I'm bleeding. Nicking it on things. Obviously I want to put gloves on before I get any acid on that. But we're going to go ahead and start our acid treatment. So our panels are still wet from when I washed it, and I'm going to do about 2 or 3 panels at a time. I don't want to go any further than that so my product doesn't dry out, but I am going to let it dwell for about 30 seconds before I come in and start using my clay pad that I normally would use on my DA. It's pretty aggressive, but it did a really good job. I used the clay pad that I normally would put on my DA. It's from Max Shine, and it's actually pretty aggressive. You can actually see some areas where some of the rubber actually rubbed off, which that's an easy fix. When you polish, that will come right off. Some of our tighter spaces, we still have a lot of rail dust that's accumulated, so we might need to get a clay bar for some of these more intricate areas. But that got like 90% of the rail dust, especially these areas right here where it was really heavy. A lot of kind of these curved portions of the panel. You can see over here where we did not do anything. We didn't spray the acid. We didn't do any sort of clay bar treatment. And here, that is a night and day transformation. So I'm happy with the result that the product is giving us. We're still gonna have to polish because I'm for sure marring the paint, but that was on the docket to begin with. And when you've got paint this bad, I would just say give up any sort of notion that you're gonna not scratch the paint. So after doing our acid bath, we rinsed everything off, and then I used the Chemical Decon Purple X and the Clay Magic medium grade clay bar. It did a really good job of getting into especially those tighter areas and removing any remaining contaminants that the clay pad couldn't pull up. A lot of the edges around the headlights, taillights, door handles, the harder to reach areas, the clay bar was exactly what I needed to be able to pull up as much of the rail dust as I could. Now, some had unfortunately pitted into the paint, and there's not much you can do at that point beyond wet sanding and possibly compound and polish, or possibly even respray. But what we were able to pull up with these processes, we were able to get up. I did try to experiment to see if I were to do the chemical decon first and then hit it with acid, if that made a big impact. And I did notice actually that if I were to do the acid first, then the chemical decon, I didn't have to work quite as hard with the clay bar treatment. It also could be the fact that this was the tailgate and it was the worst on the vehicle, but it did make a huge difference, especially on the tailgate. But ultimately, very satisfying to see the purple reaction. We were able to remove as much as we could, but this isn't by any means a quick or easy process. It took me about 4 hours from start to finish, from doing the first wash to the acid bath and then doing the chemical decon and clay bar treatment. So pretty involved process, but very satisfied with how it turned out. So after we washed everything, I probably washed a total of about 3 times yesterday, between doing the initial scrub, then doing the acid and the clay pad, and then following up with the chemical remover, and then either a clay bar or my clay towel. There was kind of a combination of things. I noticed that when I used the acid first, then followed up with the chemical decon, it did a greater job of loosening things so that my clay bar, I didn't have to work as hard. If I went in first with a chemical decon, then did acid, I had to work a little bit harder. So something that I noticed there, just an observation. I think the acid is definitely the more extreme route to go. And things that I wanted to note along with that: if you're going to use acid, make sure you are in the shade. Make sure that you are working on a cool surface. Make sure you don't have elements of the vehicle that if they get acid on them that it would be damaged. Avoid glass if you can, and work in smaller sections. I was working about 2 or 3 panels at a time. I did have a cooler, shady day. It was kind of cloudy, so I didn't have to battle sun or things drying out. But if it's a sunny day, have it under a canopy and work in smaller sections versus larger, just to be safe, and try to keep it away from any sort of raw aluminum or metal where it might be damaged. If you have a more degraded exterior, play it by ear, do an inconspicuous area first, kind of do a test spot to see how it goes before you just kind of go, this vehicle, the clear is in really good condition. So just observations to note moving forward. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is an advanced level detailing, but it's definitely not beginner level. And obviously you want to make sure that you're using protection. If you are super, cautious, I would say put a respirator on. Both chemicals can be pretty strong on the lungs, but it was a breezy day and I wasn't too worried about it. I made sure I kind of sprayed and didn't walk into it. But essentially did a fantastic job. I didn't think I was going to be able to get that done as quickly as I did. And I'll be honest with you, I think we saved this vehicle by being able to do these steps and remove the rail dust, because if we hadn't, I think it would have just essentially turned into a big rust bucket. So let me show you a closer look of how it turned out. I'm really happy with the end result. I'm actually in the middle of polishing it right now. I've done a couple test spots and nailed down what I want to do. We're using the 21 millimeter long throw, the medium wool Rupes polishing pad, and Jesscar correcting compound. And then we're using their fine polish and a polishing pad after. We're kind of doing a 1.5 step, do a couple passes with the compound, leave it on the panel, come in with my polish, do 2 passes, wipe off, and then we are actually getting it ready for this right here. This is the Meguiar's hybrid paint coating. This will be my first time using it. I am so excited. I've been waiting for this opportunity to apply it. A lot of my customers have specifically requested certain things. This customer was like, I don't care, just 12-month coating. And if he maintains it properly, he can see well beyond 12 months. So for those of you that want to see this product going down, how easy it is, what it looks like, I know it's a white truck. It's not going to be able to have all the telltale signs. It's sometimes a darker colored vehicle. But for those of you that are looking for a very forgivable coating, perfect for entry level, for enthusiasts, we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at this puppy. So let me show you the finished results. So we still have really nice gloss to the paint. I was a little nervous because when it was wet, it was kind of hard for me to tell if we were dealing with maybe some single stage or if there were issues, but I can tell that everything looks fantastic. We don't have single stage paint or anything like that going on. There are a couple marks where my clay pad that I would put on my DA left some rubber streaks, but that is an easy fix. A lot of times my clay bar actually removed it, or quick polish will remove that. There is some marring, like I said, but when we come in and look up close, and this is focused, it looks night and day. A lot of these panels, honestly, I didn't know what we were going to be able to do as far as recovery. There are some places where it actually pitted into the paint, that no matter if I go over it and it's smooth, you can see like right there, it's smooth, but it actually pitted into the clear coat. So when we go over it with our compound and our polish, anything that can kind of be abraded off will come up nicely. But essentially, even our areas back here that had a lot of heavy rust buildup, as much as I could get my clay bar in to remove the rust, we were able to make a significant difference. This was actually some of the worst right here. And then right here, this was actually orange. And then even down here, it was pretty much solid orange. So really, really happy with the end results. You can tell where I couldn't kind of reach. We're going to try to get a hand polish in there. I wish I could kind of get back in here because you can see where some of it's building up a little bit in the areas that I couldn't access. Like down there, you can see that's kind of our condition before. And then you can see after we did our clay pad and chemical remover, it did a great job. As far as paint condition, this is kind of where I'm able to get it. I'm not looking for paint perfection, neither is the customer. It was pretty severely swirled and scratched. In fact, this section here I haven't touched. This was the condition of the paint before. I haven't done anything on this panel. And you can see it's pretty severe. So to go from that, where it almost looks like we've got a star, to just a nice circular reflection. Still have some random swirls going on, but they're nowhere near as bad as they were. So we still got a lot of work to do. These are kind of some of my test panel spots. And you can see here, this one I haven't touched yet. So we've got quite a bit of polishing ahead. Really good results very quickly. And then we're going to wipe everything off with our surface prep and apply our coating. So hopefully this closer look at the chemical decontamination for a heavily contaminated vehicle helps some of you out. I don't know on a day-to-day basis how often you're going to see extreme situations like this. This was the worst rail dust that I've ever experienced in my 5 years of detailing. And hopefully by us cleaning the paint thoroughly and applying a protective coating, it won't get this bad. But we're obviously going to talk to the customer about making sure that he does a good contact wash at least, twice a month, and then bring it back every 4 to 6 months for a clay bar treatment or a chemical decon, just to try to prevent that from happening in the future. But I think we were able to save this truck and give it a renewed sense of life, breathe some fresh life into it. I think the customer's going to be extremely happy with the end result. I know I am. So thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions about the chemicals, the products, let me know in the comment section down below. If you've encountered something like that, what has worked for you in the past? Share your tips, your recommendations. I know this isn't the only way to go about doing that, but obviously safety is key. So when you're using these things, just keep those suggestions that I shared with you in mind. If you're nervous about it, then you might just have to go the route of a chemical decon and spend a little bit more time with a clay bar. But where there's a will, there's a way, and we got it done. So thanks, guys, for watching. Stay tuned for that Meguiar's hybrid paint coating video coming shortly. But we'll see you guys in the next video very soon. Have a great day.